Beneath the shifting sands of the Egyptian desert, entombed in chambers that have remained sealed for millennia, there exists a body of knowledge so profound and so deliberately hidden that its very existence has been denied by mainstream Egyptology. The fragments that have surfaced speak of a cosmology that predates all known religious traditions, a sophisticated understanding of the soul that contradicts everything modern theology has taught. These buried texts describe the soul not as a singular, indivisible essence, but as a multidimensional construct, a being capable of existing simultaneously across multiple planes of consciousness, each layer holding secrets about the true nature of human existence and cosmic purpose. What did the ancient Egyptians truly know about the soul that warranted such meticulous concealment? And what would happen if humanity remembered the complete architecture of consciousness that had been deliberately fragmented and obscured? Nathaniel was an Egyptologist whose entire career had been built upon the accepted narratives of his discipline. Yet he had always harbored a quiet, persistent doubt about the official interpretations of Egyptian spirituality. His dreams, vivid and recurring, showed him chambers beneath the Great Pyramid, libraries of knowledge carved into stone, symbols that seemed to contain layers of meaning far deeper than conventional scholarship acknowledged. It was during an expedition to a remote site in the Valley of the Kings that he discovered it, a small, unassuming artifact that would forever alter the trajectory of his life. The object was a crystalline tablet inscribed with hieroglyphics that did not match any known Egyptian script, yet somehow he understood their meaning intuitively. The symbols spoke of the soul's journey through multiple dimensions, of consciousness as a fundamental force that transcended physical death, of a spiritual technology that the ancients had possessed and deliberately hidden. The discovery sent a shock through his being, a recognition so profound that it felt like remembering something he had always known but had forgotten. From that moment forward, Nathaniel became obsessed with uncovering the complete teachings of the ancient Egyptians regarding the soul, driven by an internal compulsion that transcended academic curiosity. The call was undeniable, a resonance deep within his consciousness that urged him to seek the knowledge that had been deliberately suppressed, to restore the teachings that had been fragmented and distorted by centuries of misinterpretation. Nathaniel's investigation led him to connect with a secret society of scholars, guardians of Egyptian wisdom, who had preserved the true teachings in hidden archives scattered across the Middle East and North Africa. They called themselves the Keepers of the Eternal Ka, named after the ancient Egyptian concept of the life force that animated all existence. Through their guidance, Nathaniel gained access to texts that had been carefully hidden from mainstream Egyptology, documents that revealed a startlingly advanced understanding of consciousness and the nature of the soul. He learned that the ancient Egyptians had possessed a sophisticated cosmological model that described the soul as composed of 9 distinct aspects, each one representing a different dimension of consciousness and a different level of spiritual development. The Ka was the vital life force, the Ib was the heart-mind where moral choices were made, the Ba was the individual personality and spiritual double, the Kat was the physical body, the Ak was the enlightened spirit, and there were 4 additional aspects that transcended ordinary human comprehension. This was not mere mythology, the Keepers explained, but a precise mapping of the multidimensional nature of human consciousness. A technology of the soul that allowed for direct experience of higher states of awareness. Yet, as religions consolidated power and sought to simplify and control spiritual understanding, this complex cosmology was deliberately obscured. The 9 aspects of the soul were reduced to a singular simplified concept, and the techniques for accessing higher consciousness were suppressed and forgotten. As Nathaniel delved deeper into this forbidden knowledge, he encountered formidable resistance. Within himself, the academic training that had defined his entire identity seemed to crumble. "Am I abandoning all scientific rigor?" he questioned, descending into the realm of mysticism and superstition. Fear gripped him as he began to comprehend the implications of what he was uncovering, the potential to overturn not just Egyptological scholarship, but the entire foundation of modern religious understanding. Externally, he faced subtle but persistent opposition. His academic colleagues began to distance themselves from his work. Funding for his expeditions mysteriously disappeared. He received warnings, both veiled and direct, from individuals who seemed to represent powerful interests invested in keeping this knowledge buried. He experienced the loss of his academic standing, the fracturing of professional relationships, and the profound isolation that came from pursuing a truth that the mainstream world refused to acknowledge. The revelations were dangerous, not just to his reputation, but to his psychological stability, forcing him to question the very foundations of reality itself and the nature of consciousness that underlay all existence. If you enjoy these kinds of stories, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss any of our content. And tell us in the comments where you are watching from. We would love to know. The breakthrough came during a ritual conducted in the hidden chamber beneath the Great Pyramid, a space that had been sealed and protected for thousands of years. Nathaniel, along with the keepers of the Eternal Ka, had gathered to perform an ancient ceremony of soul communion, seeking direct contact with the multi-dimensional aspects of consciousness that the ancients had described. As they chanted in the sacred language of the pharaohs, a language that seemed to resonate with the very fabric of reality itself, something extraordinary occurred. The boundaries between dimensions began to thin, and Nathaniel felt his consciousness expanding, fragmenting, and simultaneously integrating across multiple planes of existence. He experienced himself as the 9 aspects of the soul simultaneously, perceiving reality from 9 different perspectives at once. He was the Ka, the vital force that animated his physical form. He was the Ib, the heart-mind making choices that rippled across dimensions. He was the Ba, the individual personality expressing itself through infinite variations. He was the Kat, the physical body serving as an anchor in material reality. He was the Ak, the enlightened spirit, perceiving the unity underlying all apparent separation. And he was 4 additional aspects that transcended language and conceptual understanding, dimensions of consciousness so vast and so profound that they could only be experienced, never fully described. The revelation was cataclysmic, a complete dissolution of his sense of singular identity. He understood that what modern psychology called the unconscious mind was actually the conscious awareness of these other aspects of the soul, that mental illness and psychological dysfunction often resulted from disconnection between these multidimensional aspects. He saw that the ancient Egyptians had possessed therapeutic and spiritual technologies that allowed for integration and harmonization of all 9 aspects, creating a state of consciousness that transcended both sanity and insanity as conventionally understood. He witnessed the moment when this knowledge was deliberately suppressed, when religious authorities recognized that if humanity remembered its true multi-dimensional nature, the entire structure of control and domination would collapse. The impact was transformative, leaving his consciousness forever altered by direct experience of the complete architecture of the soul. The intensity of this communion left Nathaniel in a state of profound transformation and integration. He emerged from the chamber beneath the pyramid in a condition of deep expansion, his consciousness now capable of perceiving and navigating the multiple dimensions of the soul simultaneously. He retreated to a secluded sanctuary maintained by the keepers of the Eternal Ka, a place where he could process and integrate the magnitude of what he had experienced. For months, he remained in contemplative silence, his mind a vast landscape where the boundaries between the 9 aspects of the soul began to achieve harmonious balance. The conflicts within him, The struggle between his former academic identity and his awakening to multidimensional consciousness slowly transformed into a higher synthesis. He understood that the suppression of this knowledge had not been the result of malice alone, but of fear. Fear that the full realization of humanity's multidimensional nature would lead to a fundamental transformation of consciousness and society. He spoke to himself in the language of symbols and hieroglyphics, his thoughts flowing in patterns that mirrored the sacred geometry of the soul's architecture. He began to perceive the world as a living expression of the 9 aspects of consciousness, each being a unique manifestation of the divine principle that underlay all existence. Nathaniel emerged from his retreat with a clear sense of purpose and profound wisdom. He understood that his role was not to wage war against mainstream Egyptology or to impose his understanding upon others, but to become a living bridge through which the ancient Egyptian teachings about the soul could be gradually restored to human consciousness. He began to teach, not in conventional academic settings, but through a series of contemplative practices and sacred rituals designed to reconnect individuals with the multidimensional aspects of their own consciousness. He wrote books that appeared to be scholarly works on Egyptian spirituality, yet contained encoded wisdom that would resonate with those ready to receive it. He established a network of meditation centers and sacred spaces, places where seekers could directly encounter the 9 aspects of their own soul through guided inner experience. He collaborated with psychologists, neuroscientists, and creative practitioners to translate the ancient teachings into forms that could integrate with contemporary understanding of consciousness and psychology. His most significant contribution was the development of a practice he called the integration of the 9, a systematic approach to harmonizing and balancing all aspects of the soul, creating a state of consciousness that transcended fragmentation and allowed for the full expression of human potential. He understood that the restoration of this knowledge would not come through academic debate or institutional reform, but through the lived experience of individuals recognizing themselves as multi-dimensional beings, as expressions of the complete architecture of the soul that the ancient Egyptians had so carefully mapped and preserved. As he continued his work, he became increasingly aware that he was not acting alone, that the presence of the ancient Egyptian masters continued to guide and support his efforts, that the knowledge of the soul continued to flow through those sensitive enough to perceive it. He recognized that the gospel beneath the sand was not a relic of the distant past, but an eternal truth, waiting for humanity to remember its true nature and reclaim its birthright as multidimensional consciousness. What hidden aspects of your own soul are waiting to be recognized and integrated into the fullness of your being? And if you liked this story, you will definitely love the next one that's appearing on your screen. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, leave your like, and activate the notifications. See you in the next one.